The ocean had always been a place of mystery, hiding secrets beneath its endless waves. But even the deepest parts of the sea had boundaries, places where no human had ever ventured. For centuries, one such place had held a secret that the world had long forgotten. A massive galleon, old and broken yet strangely beautiful, rested silently on the seabed. Its wooden hull, once polished and strong, had become dark and worn. Coral and seaweed clung to every surface, and the creatures of the deep had made it their home. To any casual observer, it was nothing more than a forgotten relic of history. But in truth, it was alive in a way no one could explain. Dr. Lena Voss watched the live feed from the underwater drone as it moved through the ruins of the ship. She had studied shipwrecks all her life, but something about this one felt different. Her fingers hovered over the control panel, hesitant to move too quickly, as though disturbing it might awaken something. The drone's light swept across the hull, revealing intricate carvings that should have been long eroded. Strange symbols, almost glowing faintly, lined the sides of the galleon. Lena had never seen anything like it. The patterns seemed deliberate, not natural, and the way they reflected the drone's lights made them appear to shimmer, as if the ship itself were breathing. She leaned closer to the monitor, her curiosity mingled with unease. The sensors attached to the drone had picked up something unusual, a faint energy reading. At first, she thought it was a glitch, but as she watched, the numbers fluctuated, pulsing rhythmically, almost like a heartbeat. It was subtle, almost imperceptible. But Lena could not ignore it. She had studied deep-sea phenomena for decades, and nothing she knew could explain it. "Bring it closer," she whispered, her voice low. Her team hesitated for a moment, aware that the further they went, the more dangerous the ocean became. But Lena's insistence was firm, fueled by something she could not yet name. The drone descended slowly, passing through layers of darkness and pressure that would crush any unprotected human. Tiny creatures with translucent bodies swam past, their eyes reflecting the drone's lights like stars in the Black Sea. Lena felt a shiver run down her spine, a mix of excitement and fear. As the drone approached the galleon's bow, something extraordinary happened. The water seemed to move differently around the ship, currents twisting in impossible directions, almost as if they were being guided. Lena's team exchanged nervous glances, unsure if what they were witnessing was natural or something else entirely. And then, as if responding to an invisible signal, the galleon began to move. Slowly, almost imperceptibly at first, it lifted off the seabed. Sand and debris cascaded from its hull as it rose, but it did not sink back down. The currents seemed to carry it gently, like hands guiding it upward. Lena gasped, leaning closer to the screen, unable to look away. The ship, which had been lost for centuries, was rising of its own accord. No one on the surface could have imagined such a sight, and yet there it was, defying logic and reason. The energy readings spiked as the galleon continued to ascend. Lena's instruments detected forms of energy she had never encountered, subtle electromagnetic waves, faint heat signatures, and something that could almost be described as consciousness. Her mind raced. Could an object, a ship, hold awareness? The idea seemed impossible, yet here it was, behaving in ways no one had ever predicted. She reached for her radio, calling her team together. "Everyone, focus. Record everything. We don't know what this is, but it's not ordinary. Treat it carefully. Observe. Don't interfere." From the surface, the researchers could see tiny distortions in the water as the galleon broke through the ocean's depths. Fish scattered in all directions, startled by the sudden movement, and strange lights flashed across the water like the aurora of the deep. Scientists and engineers alike crowded the control room, watching with a mix of awe and fear. Social media would later call it the rising ghost ship, But to those present, it was far more than a spectacle. It was a mystery calling to humanity itself, asking questions that had no answers. And for Lena, the most important question of all was simple, yet terrifying. Why now? The galleon's slow rise continued for hours. Even the drones, designed to withstand extreme pressure, had difficulty keeping up. Lena watched as cracks in the ship's hull revealed glimpses of the interior. Dark corridors lined with intricate carvings, rooms filled with objects long corroded but strangely intact. She imagined the lives of the people who had once sailed this ship, unaware that the sea would eventually reclaim it. She thought of the cargo it must have carried, the secrets it might have held. But none of that seemed as important as what was happening now. The galleon was moving with purpose, almost as if it had waited centuries for this moment. As night fell above the ocean, the surface lights reflected off the water, creating a shimmering halo around the slowly rising ship. It was impossible to tell how large the galleon truly was. The depths had hidden its full size for centuries. Lena felt a pull in her chest, an emotion she could not name. The galleon's ascent was mesmerizing, almost hypnotic. Her mind, trained to analyze and categorize, struggled to comprehend the wonder unfolding before her eyes. "It's like it's calling us," one of her colleagues whispered, barely audible over the hum of the machines. Lena nodded, unable to disagree. She did not understand what force could have waited so long to act. Yet the feeling of being summoned was undeniable. The ocean around the galleon seemed to respond to its movement. Currents twisted in patterns that resembled symbols. Bubbles rose in synchronized streams, and small sea creatures swam alongside the hull as if guiding it. Lena realized that this was no ordinary shipwreck. The galleon seemed to have a consciousness of its own, one that had remained dormant for centuries, but had now awakened. And it had chosen humanity to witness its return. She could not explain why, but deep in her mind a thought took root. Whatever force had created this ship had a purpose, and it was inviting humans to be part of it. As the galleon neared the surface, a change occurred. The faint glow from the carvings on its hull became stronger, casting light through the surrounding water like a beacon. Lena's instruments detected fluctuations in the electromagnetic field, subtle signals that seemed almost like communication. She leaned closer to the monitor, straining to understand. It was not language, not in any form she recognized, but it was deliberate. Patterns repeated, rhythms echoed, and for a moment, she felt she could almost comprehend it. The galleon was alive, aware, and trying to tell them something. The question was whether humans could answer. Above the water, the world began to take notice. Satellites detected the unusual rise, and ships were sent to investigate. News outlets scrambled to cover the event, calling it the ghost ship rising from the deep. But for Lena and her team, the spectacle was secondary to the questions it raised. This was not a simple shipwreck or a natural phenomenon. Something ancient and intelligent was making itself known, and humanity was being drawn into its story. She felt both excitement and responsibility. Whatever this galleon represented, it would not wait for humanity to decide. They had to act carefully or risk losing the opportunity entirely. The galleon finally broke the surface, massive and imposing, its hull shimmering with a light that seemed to come from within. The sea around it churned, waves rolling as if the ocean itself was celebrating the return of this ancient vessel. Lena's team held their breath, watching history unfold. The galleon was no longer just a relic of the past. It was a bridge between centuries, a message sent across time. Its slow, deliberate rise had been a warning and an invitation. The question now was whether humanity was ready to answer. For Lena, the answer was simple. They had to explore it. They had to understand it. Whatever force had guided this ship to the surface, whatever intelligence had waited for centuries, It had chosen them as witnesses. And if humanity wanted to survive and thrive, they could not ignore the call. The galleon rose slowly, majestically, like a sleeping giant awakened from a long dream. And Lena knew, in her heart, that this was only the beginning. The world below and above the surface would soon realize that something extraordinary had returned, and that humanity's place in the universe was about to change forever. As the night deepened, Lena watched the galleon, its massive sails torn but still elegant, catching the moonlight. She felt a sense of connection, a feeling that the ship had waited specifically for her and her team. The patterns of energy, the strange symbols, the gentle guidance of the currents, all spoke of intelligence and purpose. The galleon was not just an object, it was a living testament to something far greater than any human invention. And though they did not yet understand it, they would. Humanity always did, in time. The ocean held its breath, the galleon held its secret, and Lena stood ready to follow wherever it led. The sunken galleon had risen slowly, deliberately, as if called by something older and wiser than humanity itself. And the call had been heard. The galleon floated on the ocean's surface, its enormous hull glowing faintly under the moonlight. News of its rise spread quickly, reaching every corner of the globe. Military satellites captured images, research stations buzzed with reports, and even small fishing towns reported strange lights over the waves. Humanity had never seen anything like it. Ships and helicopters were dispatched to investigate, but the galleon seemed unthreatened, moving with a calm majesty that no human technology could match. For Lena Voss and her team, the rising galleon was no longer a mystery of the past. It was a challenge of the present, a puzzle that demanded their attention. Lena watched the live feeds in awe. The galleon, though massive, moved slowly, almost deliberately, as though testing the waters and observing those who approached. Electrical instruments on nearby vessels began to fluctuate, readings jumping and dropping without explanation. Radios crackled with static, and GPS systems failed intermittently. It was as if the galleon had a will of its own, capable of interfering with human technology. Lena frowned. She had studied unusual electromagnetic fields before, but this was on a scale she had never imagined. "It's alive," she whispered to herself. Her team had heard it many times, the phrase repeated like a mantra, alive, aware, calling. But the reality of it was overwhelming. From the shore, small boats began to approach, filled with journalists, scientists, and the curious. Governments debated what to do. Some feared danger, some feared losing control, and others were simply fascinated. But Lena understood something the world had not yet realized. The galleon was not attacking. It was observing. It was responding. And what it responded to most strongly were the humans themselves. Early experiments, cautious and small, revealed that when a crew acted with cooperation, kindness, and intelligence, the galleon's glow intensified, energy readings spiked, and currents around it shifted in smooth patterns. When humans fought, argued, or tried to exploit it, the galleon recoiled subtly, currents twisting in resistance, almost as if it could sense malice. Lena gathered her team on the research vessel nearest to the galleon. "We need to approach carefully," she said, her voice firm. "This is not a wreck. This is something else. We are guests, observers, and possibly participants in whatever this is. Treat it as intelligent. Treat it with respect." Her team nodded, some skeptical, some frightened. The galleon's calm presence demanded more than curiosity. It demanded humility. Even seasoned sailors and deep-sea explorers felt a tension in the air, a sense that they were part of something far larger than themselves. As the first small vessels drew close, strange things began to happen. tiny lights appeared along the galleon's railings, flickering like stars. Symbols glowed faintly on the wooden hull, shimmering in patterns that seemed meaningful, as if forming words in an ancient language no one could read. Lena instructed the team to record everything. They documented the lights, the energy readings, and even the behavior of the sea around the ship. Fish swam in orderly formations, and small creatures surfaced in clusters, drawn inexplicably to the galleon. It was as though the ship had called the entire ecosystem to witness its rise. The effect on humans, too, was undeniable. Crew members whispered to one another, voices filled with awe, fear, and curiosity. Something profound was happening. Something that connected humans to the ship in ways they did not yet understand. Over the next few hours, the team observed a pattern emerging. When the humans approached the galleon together, communicating calmly, solving problems as a group, the ship seemed to respond. The lights grew brighter, symbols shifted in ways that suggested intelligence, and currents moved in harmony with their movements. Lena began to theorize that the galleon was testing humanity, measuring not brute strength or technological skill, but qualities deeper and rarer: cooperation, intelligence, morality. Perhaps it had been sent to witness the potential of humans, or perhaps it had been waiting for them to prove themselves. Whatever the reason, Lena felt a sense of responsibility. Humanity's actions were being observed, and how they behaved here could have consequences far beyond what anyone could imagine. Governments tried to intervene, sending armed vessels closer, but the galleon reacted subtly yet unmistakably. Waves rose against the aggressive ships, pushing them back gently but firmly. No human was harmed, yet it was clear that the galleon could defend itself if it chose to. Lena and her team realized that this was not a test of power, but a test of intention. Humanity could destroy itself, could conquer and exploit, but the galleon was guiding them towards something higher. She felt a thrill, mixed with a heavy weight of responsibility. This was an opportunity the world might never see again, and it was up to them to respond with wisdom, not force. Late that night, Lena sat on the deck of their research vessel, staring at the galleon. Its massive sails, torn but elegant, caught the moonlight in a way that made them appear alive. She felt as if the ship were aware of her thoughts, waiting for her to act. She thought of history, of all the humans who had fought, explored, created, and failed. All of it seemed connected now, as if the galleon were a bridge between humanity's past and its potential future. Lena felt a deep sense of purpose. Whatever this ship represented, it was clear that humans were not mere spectators. They were part of a larger story, a story that demanded courage, intelligence, and morality. The next morning, the team decided to attempt a cautious boarding. Drones were sent first, moving through the hull's open hatches, recording everything. Lena watched as the images came back. The interior was intact, far larger than the exterior suggested. Rooms stretched beyond what the eye could see, filled with objects that had survived centuries underwater. Strange carvings lined the walls, glowing faintly, depicting humans and other creatures, acts of creation, courage, and discovery. It was as if the galleon were preserving not only itself, but a record of humanity's spirit. Lena's heart pounded. She realized that this ship had waited a long time for someone like them, someone who could understand its purpose. As they explored further, Lena noticed a subtle reaction. The galleon seemed to respond to their movements, guiding them gently toward certain corridors while discouraging exploration of others. Some paths led to dead ends, filled with illusions and puzzles that required teamwork and intelligence to navigate. One test involved moving massive objects in harmony with each other, requiring patience and coordination. Another required solving complex patterns projected onto the walls, patterns that changed when the team worked together, but became impossible when approached selfishly or hastily. Lena felt a mixture of awe and challenge. The galleon was not only alive, it was teaching, guiding, and judging simultaneously. Meanwhile, back on the surface, news of the galleon's rise sparked worldwide fascination. People gathered on beaches, towns, and ships to watch. Theories ran wild. Some believed it was an alien artifact. Others thought it was a remnant of a lost civilization, while a few dismissed it as an elaborate natural phenomenon. But those closest to the galleon understood that it was something far beyond speculation. It was a test, a message, and a gift, all at once. Lena and her team became humanity's witnesses, the first to truly understand the galleon's intentions. And the world waited, unaware that every action, every decision, was part of a larger evaluation. As hours passed, Lena noticed a subtle connection forming. The galleon's energy seemed to resonate with the humans who acted selflessly and creatively. It was almost musical, a harmony of light, energy, and motion. Those who cooperated saw the ship glow brighter, currents flow smoother, and symbols shift more clearly. Those who argued, rushed, or acted selfishly caused the energy to waver, the currents to twist, and the lights to flicker. It was clear. The galleon valued more than strength or technology. It valued the qualities that made humanity extraordinary: intelligence, courage, compassion, and cooperation. By nightfall, Lena's team had mapped much of the ship's exterior and interior. They discovered rooms that defied conventional design, spaces that seemed to stretch and shift, puzzles that required more than logic. They required understanding, empathy, and unity. Lena realized that the galleon's purpose was not destruction, not conquest, but education and selection. It was inviting humanity to rise to its potential, offering lessons, guidance, and perhaps even a reward. The thought filled her with awe and a quiet determination. Humanity had always faced challenges, but never one quite like this. The galleon was not just a relic. It was a living testament to what humans could become. As Lena prepared for the night, she felt a strange connection to the ship. The galleon pulsed faintly, its energy almost rhythmic, matching her own heartbeat. It was as if it could sense her thoughts, her intentions, her very presence. She realized that this was only the beginning. The ship's tests were just starting. The challenges yet to come would be greater, and the rewards, if humanity proved worthy, would be unimaginable. But for now, she felt a sense of unity and purpose. The galleon had called humanity, and they had answered. The ocean held its breath, the world watched in awe, and Lena knew that nothing would ever be the same again. In the quiet hours of the night, Lena stood at the edge of the deck, staring at the glowing hull. Tiny waves lapped against the ship as though respecting its presence. She could feel a faint hum, a vibration that resonated through the water and into her bones. It was a reminder that the galleon was patient, eternal, and wise. Whatever had sent it, whatever force had guided it from the depths of history, it had chosen this moment and chosen humanity for a reason. Lena understood that their task was clear: to learn, to act wisely, and to prove that humanity was capable of rising to the challenges the universe might set before them. The galleon floated silently in the moonlight, its glow painting the night sky with colors no one could name. The world waited, unaware that this silent giant was more than a ship. It was a teacher, a guide, and a test of humanity's potential. And as Lena watched, she felt the quiet promise of discovery, challenge, and wonder. Humanity had been called. The question now was whether they could answer. The morning sun reflected off the ocean in glittering patterns as the galleon floated silently, majestic and unyielding. Lena Voss and her team stood ready, feeling both excitement and nervousness. Today, they would step aboard the ship. They had spent hours observing it from the outside, studying its energy patterns and mapping the safest approach. Yet no amount of preparation could erase the feeling of awe that gripped them. The galleon was no longer simply a ship. It was alive, aware, and waiting. Lena felt a pulse of anticipation. She had read about explorers confronting unknown phenomena, but nothing in her experience compared to this moment. The boarding process began cautiously. Small pods were lowered from the research vessel, moving toward the galleon with precise control. Every movement was measured, every action deliberate. The ocean around the ship seemed calm, but there was an undeniable energy in the water. Tiny bubbles rose in synchronized patterns, swirling as if guiding the humans toward a specific location. Lena's team noticed that the ship's glow intensified as they drew near. It was subtle at first, a gentle warmth beneath their feet, but it grew stronger, almost like the ship was acknowledging their presence. The galleon was not resisting, it was inviting them. As they stepped aboard, Lena felt an immediate shift in the air. The deck beneath their feet was solid, untouched by centuries of water and pressure. The wood creaked faintly, alive with a resonance that was difficult to describe. The symbols they had observed from outside shimmered along the walls and rails, faintly pulsing in a rhythm that felt almost like a heartbeat. Lena took a deep breath, feeling the strange mix of familiarity and alienness. This was a ship, yes, but it was more than that. It was a living archive, a record of intelligence, purpose, and memory. Every step they took seemed to echo with significance. Inside, the galleon defied expectation. The corridors stretched far beyond the dimensions of its exterior. Rooms were vast and open, filled with objects preserved in perfect condition despite centuries underwater. Intricate carvings lined the walls, depicting scenes of exploration, courage, and creation. Humans had long sailed the seas, fought wars, built civilizations, and explored the unknown. The galleon recorded all of it, displaying achievements and moments of triumph in a way that was both artistic and intelligent. Lena realized that the ship was not only alive, it was teaching, guiding, and documenting simultaneously. It was an archive of humanity's potential. The first challenge appeared almost immediately. One corridor split into multiple paths, each glowing with different symbols. Lena instructed her team to proceed together, communicating and making decisions collectively. The symbols shifted in response to their actions. When they collaborated, lights aligned and pathways opened. When they hesitated or disagreed, the lights flickered, corridors seemed to narrow, and subtle obstacles appeared. It was a test, not of strength, but of intelligence, unity, and patience. Lena understood that the galleon was measuring qualities beyond mere skill. It wanted to see how humans worked together, whether they could solve problems with cooperation rather than conflict. As they moved deeper, they encountered objects that seemed to challenge perception. Some rooms had gravity that shifted unpredictably, forcing the team to think carefully about every step. Other rooms presented puzzles that required pattern recognition, memory, and ingenuity. The carvings on the walls sometimes animated subtly, offering hints to those who observed carefully. Lena was fascinated. The galleon was not cruel in its tests. It was deliberate, patient, and precise. Every obstacle was designed to encourage thought, cooperation, and reflection. It was not about punishment. It was about preparation, teaching, and revelation. Hours passed as they explored. Lena noticed something remarkable. The galleon's responses were not uniform. It seemed to respond differently to each member of the team, adjusting challenges based on their behavior. When someone acted selflessly, the obstacles became slightly easier, guiding them forward. When someone acted out of frustration or impatience, the rooms responded with subtle difficulty. Lena realized that the galleon was testing character as much as intelligence. It wanted to understand humanity, not just examine it. She felt a surge of respect and humility. Whatever force had created this ship had anticipated the complexity of human nature and designed its tests accordingly. In one large chamber, the team encountered what could only be described as a library. Shelves stretched impossibly high, filled with scrolls, tablets, and objects that radiated faint energy. Symbols floated gently above the surfaces, glowing softly and shifting as if alive. Lena approached one of the artifacts, and a projection appeared in the air, a scene of humans in history, inventing, creating, and exploring. It was a lesson in ingenuity and perseverance. She realized that the galleon was not just a test, it was also a teacher, offering guidance and inspiration to those who entered. The ship wanted humanity to learn, to grow, to understand its own potential. It was both challenge and reward simultaneously. The most difficult trial appeared unexpectedly. A large chamber opened with a series of moving platforms, suspended over a chasm of deep shadow. Symbols floated in the air, forming a complex pattern that seemed to demand perfect timing and cooperation. Lena and her team studied it carefully, realizing that they would need to work in precise harmony to cross. They communicated quietly, carefully coordinating each step. When they moved together, the platform stabilized, the shadows receded, and the path forward became clear. It was a triumph born of cooperation, focus, and trust. Lena felt a deep sense of satisfaction. The galleon was not just testing them, it was teaching them the value of unity. As they continued, they discovered rooms filled with glowing orbs that projected images of human achievement. Explorers navigating unknown lands, scientists unlocking the secrets of nature, artists creating beauty, and leaders making difficult moral choices. The galleon seemed to celebrate human potential, recording it and sharing it simultaneously. Lena felt a profound connection to history, as if the ship were showing them the best of humanity. She realized that the galleon had waited for centuries for someone capable of understanding, someone who could see not only the physical ship, but also the ideas and lessons it contained. And now, they were here. Throughout the exploration, Lena noticed subtle reactions from the galleon. The energy it emitted increased when the team demonstrated selflessness, creativity, and problem-solving. It dimmed slightly when individuals acted selfishly, impatiently, or without consideration. Lena began to understand that the ship's intelligence was interactive and responsive. It was not a machine in the way humans understood machines. It was something more. A living, aware presence, capable of evaluating intention, action, and thought. The galleon's purpose was to teach, to challenge, and to reveal. Humanity's behavior mattered, and every choice had weight. In a final chamber, the team encountered a vast map projected into the air. It showed not only the Earth, but also stars, planets, and unexplored regions of space and sea. Lena realized that the galleon was hinting at possibilities far beyond the ocean, beyond humanity's current understanding. It was showing them potential paths, challenges, and opportunities. The map shifted as they studied it, revealing patterns and connections. Lena felt a thrill of inspiration. The galleon was not only a record of the past, it was a guide to the future. And humanity, if it proved capable, could rise to meet that future. By the end of the day, Lena's team had explored a significant portion of the galleon. They had faced challenges, solved puzzles, and learned lessons about cooperation, intelligence, and moral judgment. The ship had responded to them, guiding and testing, observing and teaching. Lena felt a deep sense of awe. The galleon had risen from the depths for a reason, and that reason was slowly becoming clear. It was not simply a relic of the past. It was a living testament to human potential, waiting for those capable of understanding its lessons and rising to its challenges. As they prepared to leave the ship for the night, Lena paused on the deck, staring out at the glowing ocean. The sun was setting, casting golden and purple hues across the waves. The galleon floated silently, patient and aware, waiting for humanity to continue its journey. Lena felt a profound connection to the ship and to her team. They had proven themselves capable of understanding and cooperating. The galleon had acknowledged them, subtly but unmistakably, and she knew that this was only the beginning. Greater challenges lay ahead, mysteries deeper than the ocean itself, and lessons that would test humanity's courage, wisdom, and unity. Night fell, and the glow of the galleon illuminated the surrounding waters. The world beyond the ocean watched with fascination and speculation, unaware of the trials and lessons unfolding aboard the ship. Lena and her team felt a sense of responsibility. They were humanity's first witnesses, the first to understand the galleon's purpose and potential. Their actions would set the tone for what the world might learn, the paths humanity could take, and the opportunities it might grasp. Lena felt both pride and humility. They were part of something larger than themselves, a story written in the depths of the ocean and waiting to be discovered. As she settled in for rest, Lena reflected on what they had learned. The galleon was alive, aware, and capable of teaching and guiding. It tested not just intelligence but character. It rewarded cooperation, courage, and creativity. And it held secrets and knowledge that could change humanity's future. Lena realized that the ship was preparing them for something greater, something beyond the ocean, beyond Earth, beyond the limits of what humanity had imagined. It was a promise, a challenge, and an invitation all at once. And she knew that humanity had the potential to rise to it. The galleon floated silently in the night, its lights shimmering like stars reflected on the water. Lena felt the gentle pull of its presence, a sense of guidance and encouragement. The team had passed the first stages of its trials, and the lessons they learned would shape the rest of their journey. Humanity had been called, and they had answered. The ocean held its breath, the galleon watched patiently, and Lena knew that the story was far from over. Greater discoveries, deeper challenges, and profound revelations awaited, and humanity, if it proved worthy, would rise to meet them. The night air was filled with the faint hum of energy, the galleon's presence a constant reminder of the connection between the past and the future. Lena lay awake, thinking of the lessons learned, the teamwork required, and the possibilities ahead. She understood that the ship was a mirror, reflecting humanity's potential, its flaws, and its strengths, and she felt a quiet determination. The galleon had risen from the depths for a reason, and Lena was determined to understand that reason fully. Humanity had been called to rise, and she would not fail that call. The sun rose over the horizon, casting warm light across the waves. The galleon floated silently, enormous and majestic, its glow fading slightly as if acknowledging the new day. Lena Voss and her team had spent hours exploring its endless corridors, solving the challenges it had presented and learning its lessons. Each obstacle had tested their intelligence, teamwork, and character. Each puzzle had taught them patience, cooperation, and trust. And now, as they prepared to reach the final chambers, a feeling of anticipation filled the air. The galleon had guided them this far, but the heart of its purpose was still ahead. As they moved through the vast interior, Lena noticed a change in the ship. The walls no longer displayed static carvings or floating symbols. Instead, images shifted dynamically, showing scenes of humans throughout history, not just explorers or inventors, but ordinary people acting with courage, kindness, and ingenuity. The galleon seemed to recognize and honor not only monumental achievements, but also the simple, everyday acts that defined humanity. Lena felt a surge of respect and wonder. The ship was teaching them that greatness was not only in invention or conquest, but in understanding, cooperation, and compassion. The team reached a chamber unlike any other. It was enormous, filled with soft light that seemed to come from everywhere and nowhere at once. The floor, walls, and ceiling were smooth, almost liquid in appearance, reflecting the team's images like a gentle mirror. In the center floated a massive, glowing orb, pulsating with energy that resonated deep in their chests. Lena stepped closer, feeling the warmth of the orb, the subtle vibration that seemed almost like a heartbeat. She realized that this was the core of the galleon, the place where its consciousness and purpose were most evident. It was alive, aware, and waiting to share its gift. As the team approached, the orb projected images into the air. It showed distant stars, unexplored planets, and vast oceans on worlds humanity had never visited. It displayed designs for energy systems far beyond current technology, ways to clean the oceans, harness solar and tidal power, and explore space without destroying the fragile balance of nature. It was knowledge and guidance, but not just for power or control. The galleon wanted humanity to grow, to rise without losing sight of morality, cooperation, and ingenuity. Lena realized that this was the ship's ultimate lesson. Greatness without wisdom was meaningless. The galleon had waited centuries for humans who could prove they were ready. The orb pulsed brighter, and the images shifted to reflect the team themselves. It highlighted their successes, solving puzzles, cooperating under pressure, and acting with consideration for each other and the environment. It also reflected their mistakes, their moments of doubt or selfishness, and the lessons they had learned from them. Lena understood that the galleon was not only a teacher but a guide. It could see potential, measure growth, and reward understanding. The team had passed the first stages of its judgment, and now the final phase awaited, the gift of knowledge, insight, and the responsibility that came with it. A voice, soft and musical, filled the chamber. It was not a human voice, but it was understandable. You have come far, and you have learned well. You have shown intelligence, courage, and unity. You have acted with wisdom and heart. Humanity's potential is great, but it is fragile. The choice now lies before you. Will you use this knowledge to rise together, to build, explore, and understand, or will you seek only power for yourself? Lena felt a chill, not of fear, but of realization. The galleon was not only presenting knowledge, it was testing their intentions, their morality, and their vision for the future. Lena and her team looked at each other, understanding the weight of the moment. They spoke collectively, their voices steady, reflecting unity and purpose. We will use this knowledge to grow, to help humanity, and to explore wisely. We will act together, not for domination, but for understanding and progress. The orb pulsed in response, its glow intensifying as if affirming their commitment. Lena felt a warmth in her chest, a deep sense of connection to the ship, the ocean, and the universe. The galleon had accepted them, acknowledging their potential as worthy stewards of knowledge and progress. Outside, the ocean reflected the ship's glow, waves shimmering like liquid silver. Ships, helicopters, and drones watched from a distance, unaware of the decisions taking place within. Humanity had been given a glimpse of its potential, though few knew the full extent. Lena felt the responsibility weigh upon her. This knowledge was a gift, yes, but it came with expectation. It was a challenge to rise above greed, conflict, and short-term thinking. The galleon had not only tested them, it had prepared them for the task of shaping a better future, and she knew that the world would need guidance to rise to this challenge. The orb projected one final image, the galleon itself, rising from the depths, floating majestically on the surface, a reminder of patience, resilience, and purpose. Lena understood that the ship had chosen its moment carefully, waiting until humanity had reached a point where it could recognize and respect its message. The galleon was not just a relic of history. It was a sentinel, a teacher, and a guide. Its purpose had always been clear: to witness humanity, to challenge it, and to reveal the potential that lay within. And now, the galleon had fulfilled its role, passing the responsibility to those who were willing to learn and act wisely. Lena turned to her team. "We are the first," she said quietly, "but not the last. What we do next will define how the world responds. We have been given a gift, but also a task: to lead, to teach, to inspire." Her team nodded, feeling the weight of responsibility and the thrill of opportunity. They understood that the galleon's lessons extended beyond the ship, beyond the ocean, and into the hearts and minds of all humanity. The ship had shown them what was possible, and now it was up to humans to act with courage, wisdom, and unity. As the day progressed, Lena's team began documenting everything. The galleon provided information in ways that were clear, precise, and adaptable. Energy systems, environmental designs, and exploratory tools were all revealed in forms that could be understood and implemented. The team realized that the knowledge was not meant for a few, but for all of humanity. It was a call to rise together, to explore without harm, and to innovate without selfishness. Lena felt a profound sense of hope. The galleon had waited, observed, tested, and now it had shared its gift. Humanity had the potential to rise as never before. By evening, the galleon's glow began to soften, its purpose fulfilled. Lena and her team stood on the deck, watching the sun sink below the horizon. The world around them had begun to notice changes: calmer seas, subtle shifts in weather patterns, and a sense of awe spreading among those who observed the ship. The galleon, having completed its purpose, began to drift slowly, guided by the currents, as if returning to a place of rest. Lena felt a mixture of sadness and gratitude. The ship had shared its wisdom, but it had also reminded them that the journey was ongoing. Humanity's true test was only beginning. Night fell, and the stars reflected on the calm ocean. Lena looked up. Feeling a connection to something greater than herself, the ship, and even the Earth. The galleon had shown them that humanity's strength lay not only in technology or power, but in courage, unity, and the willingness to act wisely. Lena understood that these lessons would guide generations to come. The galleon had risen slowly, patiently, as if called by something ancient and intelligent, and it had chosen humanity as its witness. Now, it was up to humans to honor that choice. In the days that followed, humanity began to change. Researchers, engineers, and leaders worked together, inspired by the galleon's lessons. Collaboration replaced conflict in many areas, creativity flourished, and technology advanced in harmony with nature. Lena's team shared what they had learned, careful to convey not only the knowledge, but also the responsibility that came with it. The world began to realize that the galleon's rise had been a turning point, a moment when humanity had been called to recognize its potential, and for those who had witnessed it firsthand, the experience was transformative, instilling a sense of purpose, humility, and hope. Lena often returned to the deck of her research vessel, staring at the horizon where the galleon had drifted. She felt the quiet presence of the ship, as if it still watched, patient and knowing. Though it was no longer glowing with the brilliance of its awakening, Lena knew that its lessons remained alive. Humanity had been called, tested, and guided, and the galleon's purpose had been fulfilled. But the true journey, the application of knowledge, the rise of civilization, and the pursuit of wisdom was only beginning. Lena felt a deep sense of pride and determination. Humanity had been chosen, and it had responded. Years passed, but the memory of the galleon remained vivid. Scientists and explorers continued to apply the knowledge and lessons they had received. Generations grew up inspired by the story of the ship that had risen from the depths, recognizing that humanity's potential was vast but fragile. The galleon's legacy was not just technology or exploration. It was a reminder that courage, intelligence, cooperation, and compassion were the foundation of true greatness. Lena, now older, often reflected on the journey. She understood that the galleon had not only revealed the possibilities of humanity, but also the responsibilities that came with them. It had risen slowly, purposefully, and humanity had risen with it. On quiet nights, when the ocean was calm and the stars were bright, Lena imagined the galleon drifting in the depths, watching, waiting, patient as ever. She felt a deep sense of connection, knowing that the ship had chosen wisely, that humanity had been given a chance to prove its worth. And in that knowledge, she found hope. The galleon had risen slowly, majestic, patient, and deliberate, as if called by something ancient and intelligent. Humanity had answered. And now, with courage, wisdom, and unity, the world was ready to rise as well.